Hey all, Pete here. Do a short video today, maybe a long video, I don't know. It's about trapping, but it's kind of about trapping on a socioeconomic level. In my last video, when I was doing some trap modifications, I got a little heated when I was talking about trapping and how my traps and the kind of traps that scientists use to catch wolves, to radio collar them, are virtually the same in most respects. And there might be some functional differences in the style of trap and stuff, but essentially they do the same thing. They catch an animal and they hold it. But as I was thinking about this video, I just started to think about a lot of other things that I've learned over the years about nature and conservation and being an environmentalist. And I know that me saying that about myself might piss some people off on both sides of the political aisle, because a lot of the far right, might view that word as similar to something like an eco-terrorist or something, whereas people on the far left might look at me and the things I do for recreation, like trapping and hunting, and say there's no way I could be an environmentalist. And unfortunately, for both those far extremes, they don't get to decide how I define myself. I get to decide how I define myself. And so I want to talk a little bit about the bigger picture in this video, mainly to help non-trappers or non-hunters understand some things, and also to help people who are engaged in trapping and hunting, or people who may be just getting into this and be catching some heat from people, give you some information. So all the way back in high school, when I got into trapping, I started hunting really young because of my dad got me into it. But all the way back even into high school, when I got into trapping and I was in FFA, and I was learning about agriculture and animal husbandry and ranching and dairies and all these different things, it became evident to me very quickly, based on the facts available, facts for anybody to find, that animals are a renewable resource, just as much as hemp is. Okay. And, I'm not going to get into that, but I think hemp should be legal. It can be used for a lot of different products that are much better on the environment than the way we do things otherwise. Anyway, and I'm not a hippie. I'm just saying hemp should be legal. Anyway, so it became evident to me very quickly that properly managed animals, virtually all animals, are a renewable resource. Okay. Folks who want to try to make the case that human beings should stay out of the affairs of animals don't understand that we are animals too, and that humans have a role to play in nature. And that's why when I say I am trap and hunt because I'm an environmentalist and a conservationist, and I want to live within the cycles of nature, that I can make that claim. Okay, so so the folks who live in the city and live in cities and then want to claim that they're advocates for nature are just completely full of shit, because they're not. They're living in an urban area, telling other people who live in rural settings how those people are supposed to be a part of nature. They have no understanding of the realities of nature. You see it all the time with tourists trying to get a friggin' baby buffalo to get in their minivan, like up in Yellowstone. Or, I'm sorry, I call it funny karma news, but the lady that went into Yellowstone and thought she could take a picture of herself above the hot spring and fell in, people who try to get pictures of themselves next to elk or moose and then get trampled, the guy that went to live with the grizzlies and then got eaten by one. We see this all the time of people who I know they probably have really good intentions, okay? And I can't judge their intentions because I don't know them, but it seems like they have good intentions. And so I'm not going to discredit them for their intentions, but I will discredit them for their seemingly seeming refusal to look at things for what they are. And in counseling, we call that acceptance, which is acknowledgement of what is. Doesn't mean we have to like it or not like it. It just means that we can acknowledge what is. And when these kind of environmental types that are opposed to hunting and trapping and things like that, they kind of, I mean, I'm sorry to generalize. I know this is a generalization, and I know not everybody fits this category, but it's almost like they think that nature is a Disney movie, like that their research on nature comes from Disney movies and not from reality and not from real science, time-tested science. Example, for over a century, hunters have managed and given value to the animals in North America. And because of our wildlife management methods, we have increased big game populations across the United States. Every dollar hunters spend goes towards something that has to do with managing those populations. Okay? Whether it's paying for fish and game or paying for habitat or whatever, that money that we spend goes to that. And the animals have value because of that. If they had no value, if there was no management, even if you closed all the hunting seasons, the populations would go down for a variety of reasons, all scientifically based or economically based, okay? So because human beings are now an animal, that is part of the environment that in which we all exist, we all coexist, we have a role. Okay, that role is contingent on and related to our ability to interact with nature. So that role means we are predators, first of all. That's why our eyes are in front and we have teeth designed to eat meat. Okay? So we're predator. We're an apex predator. We virtually have no other predators that can beat us. So we have a role in reducing populations for food. Okay, so if we were back in caveman days, hunter-gatherers, that's our role. We are an apex predator. Other apex predators include things like wolves, grizzly bears. Okay, those are some apex predators also. Different animals than humans, but animals nonetheless. Just, we're all animals. Okay. So when we do things like hunt for our food, we are engaging in the ecosystem and in nature the way God made us to. Or if you don't believe in God, the way the universe created us to, or the way evolution created us to. And although you can believe in God and evolution, I hate to break that to some people on both sides of the aisle as well. But anyway, that's a topic for a video that has nothing to do with trapping. So we engage in that. Now, when we don't engage in it, or when we do things that create obstacles to the nature cycle, then that creates problems in nature. Let me give you an example. Sun Valley, Idaho, Elkhorn. You know why it's called Elkhorn? Because the elk used to winter there. That's where the elk used to winter. What's there now? A whole bunch of rich people that are generally opposed to wolf hunting. Well, guess what, folks? You're living where the elk used to go to get away from the wolves in the winter. And now you want to further disrupt things. It wasn't enough that your greed and consumerism led to the purchasing of these beautiful, beautiful, pristine wilderness areas. But now you want to sit up there on your high horse and say, we can't manage the predators to protect our elk. You're not a conservationist. You're not a naturalist. You're not even an environmentalist. You're a snobby hypocrite that's out of touch with the world and with reality. And if that makes you mad, then too bad. Okay, so that's an example. So because human beings now coexist with other animals, we have a role to play based on how we were designed to be a part of nature. So a model, a nature model or a biology model that doesn't take into account human beings cannot be applied anymore. So you can't say stuff like, well, before people were here, the predators would get populated and then the game would go down, but then the predators would go down because the game went down, then the game would come back up. It doesn't work that way anymore because now we're in the mix. People are in the mix. And people take up space, okay? And they take up space that used to belong to animals. And so now we have to go, okay, well, if we're taking up space, Elkhorn, that used to belong to animals, then we got to be careful to not have too many damn predators, or they're going to destroy the elk or other things, or the cows or the sheep that feed people. Okay. And so again, I'm not, I know I can piss people off on both sides of the aisle here, but from the perspective that's going to make those on the right happy, what I'm saying is, people are a part of nature and we have a role to play, and that includes hunting and trapping and managing things. Okay. On the other side, this will make the people on the left happy. If we're going to claim to be these advocates for animals and nature and all this stuff, then, you better be taking care of it when you're out there and not throwing garbage out and, making a mess and driving where you shouldn't be driving and causing erosion and problems with our soil. And I remember hunting in Unit 54 when I was a kid, and it was pretty remote. And now there are friggin' four-wheeler trails all over the entire place. And I know that's not all hunters. That's just people recreating. But again, you can't have it both ways. Just like my traps are virtually almost identical in function and safety and humaneness to an animal as the biological scientists who trap wolves to radio collar them. So their traps can't be safe and mine can't be unsafe for animals. It doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways. But you also can't say, well, we have a role to play in nature, but we're not going to treat nature with respect when we're out there doing our job as predators. We're going to shit all over nature. We're going to throw trash out and dump chemicals out and drive truckloads of shit out into the desert that we don't want to take to the dump and throw it out in the middle of the environment. Can't do that. So just as passionately as we protect trapping and hunting, we need to be protecting the environment. Okay? All right. Now, let's move on to my favorite subject, taxes. I want to encourage anyone who lives in a state that has outlawed trapping to look at what's going on with the animals that used to be trapped. Okay? Now, is this going to be true of every fur bearer? No. But I'm telling you right now that coyotes specifically are being managed. Their populations are being managed in states that have outlawed leg hold traps or trapping altogether by government employed people, government trappers, government predator control specialists. And one of the methods that they're using in states where leg hold traps are illegal, to me, if I live there, one of the methods they're using is leg hold traps. Okay? So now in these states like Oregon and Washington and Colorado, and I think now California, I don't know what a joke that place is. But now, instead of letting people go do it and making money off of it, so the people can make money off of it, to make some extra money, to make a living, to work for their bread, for their daily bread, and the government can make some money off of it through licensing and fees and education. Okay, instead of that, now what you have, Arizona is another good example. Now what you have is a small contingency of people who decide it's not nice or whatever for the animal, if it's a trapper. But if it's a scientist, it is nice, okay? But if it's a trapper, it's not nice. You have a state paying upwards of $400 to $500 a coyote in taxes. Your taxes are paying for that now. Is that even, does that even make any common sense? The animals are still getting killed. So you can't even say, well, at least we're saving the critters. No, you're not. No, you're not. The predators are being managed. And it's costing you money out of your wallet. When instead, what you could do is say, well, why don't we let the people who want to trap this stuff, trap it, sell it. We'll charge money for trapping licenses and stuff, and let that money go to pay for the things it's always gone to pay for, which is habitat and environment and all these other things. And, then it doesn't cost us tax money. But no, instead we're so self-righteous in these states that we just think that no, we'd rather go broke. We'd rather bankrupt a state. And if you don't think that happens, look at California. When's the last time California had a balanced budget? I mean, I don't even know if it's ever happened since in the last 50 years. I don't know. But look at these states. Or Arizona, I read an article, they pay $430 to $500 a coyote to manage it, for the government to manage it. Colorado, big wilderness state. Trapping's illegal. They're paying people. Even in Idaho, we're still paying government trappers, but not anywhere near what we would be paying if we didn't have recreational trapping. Okay? So, if you don't agree with me on some other level, maybe look at it from a financial level and go, okay, they have to be managed. You don't have to be the person to do it. Okay? But let people do it who will do it. Because I promise you, one way or another, you're doing it. There's blood on your hands. If you're opposed to this style of management, there's still blood on your hands, whether it's with your tax dollars or whether it's if you were actually doing it yourself. Let people like me and other trappers who know how to trap and who are ethical and who have been educated and who care about the environment and who care about all animals, not just, mythological type. I shouldn't say mythological because they're real, but sort of this mystical quality to things like wolves that are not mystical at all. They're just wild dogs. Anyway, let us handle it. And we can handle regulations. We can handle limits. That's fine. But let us handle it. Because one way or another, it's got to get handled. One way or another, it's got to get handled. So that's just something to think about today on this Thursday. I'm in between clients, and I was thinking about the video I made the other day where I was talking about traps, wolf traps, and scientists and everything, and just was kind of fired up about it, as you can tell. Take that information for what it's worth. If something I said bugs you, then you probably needed to hear it, whether you're on the right side or the left side. So if it bugs you and you needed to hear it, then that's a good thing. Stuff bugs me sometimes too, but I definitely needed to hear it. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Remember, God is great. Guns are good. Freedoms are precious. And remember that we're all a part of nature. And let's take that responsibility seriously. Till next time.